Divrei-Hayamim Alef, Chapter 24. The divisions of the descendants of Aharon were as follows. The sons of Aharon, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. But Nadab and Abihu died before their father and had no children. Therefore, Eleazar and Itamar functioned as the cohanim. David, together with Zadok, from the descendants of Eleazar, and Ahimelech, from the descendants of Itamar, arranged them in divisions for service. There were more men who were chiefs found among the descendants of Eleazar than among the descendants of Itamar. Therefore there were 16 divisions of the descendants of Eleazar, headed by clan leaders, and 8 divisions of the descendants of Itamar, according to their clans. They were assigned periods of service by lot, the one group equally with the other, since both the descendants of Eleazar and the descendants of Itamar had officers of the sanctuary and officers of God. Shemaiah, the son of Netanel, the secretary, one of the Levite, recorded them in the presence of the king. The officers Zadok the Kohen, Ahimelech, the son of Abiatar, and the clan leaders of the cohanim and of the Levite, with 2 clan divisions taken from Eleazar for each one from Itamar. The first lot drawn was for Jehoiarib, the second for Yediah, the third for Harim, the fourth for Sorim, the fifth for Malchiah, the sixth for Miamin, the seventh for Hakoz, the 8th for Aviah, the 9th for Yeshua, the 10th for Shechanyahu, the 11th for Eliashiv, the 12th for Yachim, the 13th for Hupa, the 14th for Yeshevav, the 15th for Bilgah, the 16th for Immer, the 17th for Hezer, the 18th for Hapitzetz, the 19th for Petachia, the 20th for Yechezkel, the 21st for Yechin, the 22nd for Gamul, the 23rd for Delayahu, and the 24th for Maasyahu. These are the divisions and the sequence in which they served in the house of Adonai, in accordance with the rule they were given through Aharon their ancestor, as Adonai the God of Israel had ordered him. The rest of the descendants of Levi, of the descendants of Amram, Shuvael, of the descendants of Shuvael, Yechideah, of Rechabiahu, of the descendants of Rechabiahu, Yeshaiah the chief, of the Yitzhari, Shlomit, of the descendants of Shlomit, Yachat, of the sons of Hebron, Yeriyahu, Amariyahu, 2nd, Yachziel, 3rd, and Yechamam, 4th. The descendants of Uziel, Micah, of the descendants of Micah, Shemer, the brother of Micah, Yishiah, of the descendants of Yishiah, Zechariahu. The sons of Merari, Machli, and Mushi, the descendants of his son, Yaziyahu, that is, the descendants of Merari through his descendant, Yaziyahu, Shohem, Zachar, and Ivri. Of Machli, Eleazar, who had no sons. Of Kish, the descendants of Kish, Yerachmiel. And the sons of Mushi, Machli, Eder, and Yeramat. These were the descendants of the Leviim according to their clans. These likewise cast lots, as had their kinsmen, the descendants of Aharon, in the presence of David the king, Zadok, Ahimelech, and the clan leaders of the cohanim and of the Leviim, with the senior and junior clans casting lots equally.